Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Contingency X. My name's Travis, and today we're going to talk about the new Apex trigger for the Sig Sauer P320. This is a trigger replacement for the Sig Sauer. It doesn't actually do anything as far as decreasing or increasing the trigger pull poundage or weight or anything of that nature, but it does help by providing a little bit more leverage, and it's actually a little bit longer trigger. So as you guys can see, this is the stock Sig Sauer P320 trigger. It's a very traditional type of trigger where it has, the little curvature in it, crescent moon, whatever you want to call it. And it's going to be replaced with the Apex flat trigger enhancement. So I had the opportunity to fire this this new trigger this past weekend, and I must say, it didn't do anything like it's supposed to as far as the trigger pound weight or the pull or anything of that nature, but it was very nice and very comfortable. The flat trigger, for my personal preference, seems to be just a little bit better for me in my shooting style. It is also a little bit longer, I believe. So if you look at that, the way it sits at the bottom, it is a little bit longer because it doesn't have that curvature because it is flat. So it gives you a little bit more surface area to grab the trigger or to pull the trigger, squeeze the trigger, whatever you want to call it. So what we're going to do in this video today is show you guys how to install this trigger. The SIG's already been safety checked. If you guys don't know how to take apart your SIG, we did another video on a complete take apart breakdown. Go check that out. So from Apex, this is a very simple install. You actually don't need any tools, but if you'd like to use different tools, you can. Let me go ahead and set this all up here so you can see all the different parts here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take everything away that we don't need for this, just to make things a little bit less complicated. What we have here is the main firing mechanism or the trigger mechanism, and this is really simple. What we're going to be working on is this area right here, and what happens here is you have the trigger spring, and this is what we have to take out first. This can get a little tricky because what you have to do is you have to push up on the spring, and you want to go ahead and push down and in, and once you do it a couple of times, it's not very difficult, but getting it down the first time can be. Okay, there we go. So you just have to push down a little bit and wiggle it around a little, and eventually it'll come free. And this is your main trigger spring right here. Okay, so all you do simply now is lift the bar. You're gonna slide it forward a little bit. Your trigger's gonna come forward all the way. You pull up, and the bar is gonna come off. Okay, so this is your actuation or your trigger actuation bar, and this is going to be your stock trigger. Okay, so now that you have everything taken apart, you don't need your stock trigger anymore, so set that aside. Don't throw it away. I always recommend to keep these just in case for whatever reason. The reassembly process is pretty simple. Again, I may not know all the terminology for everything here, but just in case, this is your trigger arm, your new trigger, and your trigger spring. What we're going to do is take the new trigger, and if you see this little round extension here, this is going to fit right inside of this circle, just like that. So if you see this round circle here and this extension, this is going to fit right into the trigger arm, just like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the new trigger, we're going to put it in about 3/4 of the way. We're going to take the firing or the trigger arm, we're going to get the two connected, and we're going to make sure that the trigger is sat all the way in there. Like so. Okay, so you can see that the trigger is pivoting the arm back and forth. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take the trigger and push it all the way back and slide the trigger arm into this housing here. Okay, from this point, what we're going to do is we're going to take the trigger spring. If you look at the trigger spring, one side has a hook, the other side doesn't. The hooked side is simply going to go into this bottom circle here and the straight side is going to go into the actual trigger arm. So this part is where it can get a little bit tricky, especially if your firearm is freshly cleaned. But what we have to do is get this arm inside of that hole, like so, and then the trigger spring is going to sit right back into its standard position. Test the trigger, and you can see and hear that standard, Sig audible click, so you can see that it's functioning the way that it's supposed to. If your little pin falls out, that's just from the back side. Just go ahead and slip that back in. There's nothing holding it there except itself, so it's not a big deal. Okay, so from here, because the Apex flat trigger is slightly longer than the stock, when we put it back into the frame or the grip module, go ahead and put the trigger in first, and then go ahead and seat this inside, and obviously push back. And then the assembly from this part is pretty straightforward. It's just doing it like you would before. Put the slide back on. And there you have it. So the new Apex Sig Sauer P320 flat trigger enhancement. Like I said, I had a chance to shoot it this weekend in my other Sig P320, and it feels very comfortable, very natural for me. Definitely a very inexpensive enhancement to your firearm, make it a little bit more unique, a little bit more comfortable to you. Definitely recommend it. Had a lot of fun doing this video. Appreciate you guys watching. If you guys have any questions, please make sure you ask in the comments below. We'll do our best to get back to you. Until then, be safe, have fun, and we'll see you on the range.